Nigeria signs MOU with Russia on provision and affordability of fertilizer to farmers. Federal government assures Nigeria steady supply of petroleum products during Yuletide. Nigeria records success in reduction of illegal migration as government delegation visits Libya border. And on Good Morning Nigeria today, we shall discuss the Discrimination Against Persons Living with Disability Act. Now, for persons living with disability in Nigeria, it's usually not a walk in the park, unlike what is obtainable in most developed climes. This group of persons that make up 15% of the nation's population, or at least 25 million, as indicated by the 2011 World Disability Report, are usually not considered in the scheme of things.
Indeed, Rhoda, you know, the situation gets more challenging as many of them face a number of human rights abuse, from discrimination to stigma, violence, lack of access to healthcare, housing, and of course education.
You're right, absolutely, Jimmy. And so it was indeed a cheering news when President Muhammadu Buhari on January 23rd, 2019 assented to the Discrimination Against Persons Living with Disability bill, and of course following years of relentless advocacy by, of course, people living with groups and rights groups who have been advocating for this. Actually,
I know, Rhoda, the bill, which had lingered in the National Assembly for 18 years, was passed by the 8th Senate, and basic elements of the Discrimination Against Persons with Disability Prohibition Act would see corporate entities and individuals face excruciating sanctions if found guilty of discriminating against persons with impairments.
Rightly so, you're absolutely right. And in addition, the fact prohibits all forms of discrimination on ground of disability while imposing a fine of 1 million naira for corporate bodies and 100,000 naira for individuals, or a term of 6 months imprisonment for violation, and this runs concurrently.
You know, and what is more, all public organizations are to reserve at least 5% of employment opportunities for these persons. It gets even more heartwarming with the establishment of the National Commission for Persons with Disability in Section 31. Pundits are of the opinion that where previous assemblies failed, the 8th National Assembly wrote its name in gold, and President Buhari likewise assenting to the Discrimination Against Persons with Disability Prohibition Act.
Can say that again, Jimmy, and that's, of course, the fact that Nigeria joins in the International Day of Persons Living with Disability, an annual observance proclaimed in 1992 by the United Nations General Assembly. Basic issues yearning for attention. Are there effective measures, you know, in place for the full implementation of the Act to ensure equal treatment, participation of people with disability across Nigeria? With Nigeria ratifying the United Nations Convention on the Rights of People, what should be obtainable? These and more questions we intend to ask our guests. Of course, we'll try to prefer solutions to them on the program this morning. This is Good Morning Nigeria. I'm Rhoda, and I'm welcoming you to Tuesday's edition of the program. We're reaching you live on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority, and we're here in our studios in Abuja.
And I am Jumma Yusuf. We have our complimentary segments of the program, including newspaper review, business, and orders. For now, let's join Ifoma Ojinta for the morning news. Good morning, Ifoma. It's so good to see you.
Good to see you too, Jumai. Good morning, Rhoda. Good morning, Nigeria. Here is the morning news. Work has started in earnest on the construction of the Transportation University in Ora, Katsina State, in furtherance of federal government's commitment towards domesticating railway engineering and general transportation sciences in the country. This followed the formal groundbreaking ceremony for the institution, first of its kind in West Africa, by President Muhammadu Buhari.
The project is part of the ongoing effort of the federal government towards the promotion and development of indigenous capacity through technology acquisition and knowledge transfer to effectively maintain and operate the numerous railway infrastructure.
I wish to assure the federal government that the state government will provide all the necessary support and assistance for the successful execution of this project.
I have no regret, Mr. President, citing this university where I have cited. And I repeat quickly that I was influenced by nobody. So if I'm being accused of psychophancy, let me admit in advance that I'm psychophantic.
Meanwhile, President Muhammadu Buhari says the provision of road infrastructure as essential arteries for socio-economic development is critical towards enhancing the livelihoods of communities in rural Nigeria. This was while inaugurating one of the new road projects executed by Katsina State government.
I'd like to congratulate Your Excellency for your infrastructural performance in an area which I have some idea about. This is very good, and this is what will matter if we can do the infrastructure that will help in food security by making transportation easy to the center of the population.
In the meantime, Nigeria and South Africa are strengthening collaboration to improve transport infrastructure for mutual socio-economic benefits. The renewed commitment is centered on changing the narrative of road network on the continent.
Encourage indigenous investors to optimize their participation.
The swiftness with which this event took place signals positive energy between South Africa and Nigeria.
In another development, the northwest sector, the nation's border affected by the ongoing border drill, has recorded the highest success in terms of reduction of illegal migration. Head of the federal government's high-power delegation assessing the exercise, and Information and Culture Minister Lai Mohammed said this when the delegation visited Jibia border post in Katsina State.
The main reason for embarking on the drill is to protect our country against transnational security concerns such as smuggling, proliferation of small arms and light weapons, immigration, as well as terrorism.
Down to agriculture. More than 19 million bags of fertilizer have been produced under the Presidential Fertilizer Initiative headed by Governor Badaru Abubakar of Jigawa State, an initiative instituted by President Muhammadu Buhari to make fertilizer accessible to farmers at affordable price. To further improve local production of NPK, the federal government under the initiative has signed a memorandum of understanding with a Russian company for the supply of potash, an important ingredient in fertilizer production.
Stabilizing the price of NPK that we produce locally.
A serious future for cooperation. Of course, right now we are signing a contract which permit to bring potash at a very competitive international price.
And the federal government has assured Nigerians of steady supply of petroleum products during the Yuletide. This assurance was given at the end of a stakeholders meeting chaired by the Chief of Staff, Abba Kyari.
And we are assuring Nigerians that the NNP has made adequate arrangement to make a robust supply of petroleum products. There are many issues, but we have come together with all other agencies of government to ensure that those issues are resolved and that Nigerians have very, very Merry Christmas.
We've met with our contractors and directed them to provide some palliative measures to ease the movement of trucks and tankers.
We'll increase again the level of security and dedicated some officers to make sure that products are moved freely without any attempt to divert products from where they are supposed to go.
There will no longer be a hiding place for anyone who attempts or rapes any girl or woman in Nigeria. sees as Nigerian women unite across border to shame any culprits and ensure justice for victims. It is in this regard that a solidarity walk was staged by diverse women groups on the streets of Abuja with advocacy visits to key ministries.
Say what has gone wrong, whether it's an uncle who have abused you, or a pastor, a priest, a teacher, or the housemaid.
Real men don't rape. Rape is a very barbaric act, and it's not welcomed at all in our society.
We are saying no because so many of our children, so many of our women have lived with that emotional and psychological torment. So we are here to name and shame anyone that does that.
And that concludes the news highlights for now. Rhoda and Jumai will be back to continue Good Morning Nigeria after this break.
Meet the dream. Meet the stylish. The bold. Meet the inquisitive. Meet the warrior. Meet the master. Meet the realist. The challenge is coming. Unity Challenge. Power, development, and peace. Coming soon.
Can I see your particulars, sir?
Officer, my particulars no dey here.
In that case, you'll have to come with me to the police station.
Officer, which levels? Where I for find you something make you take arrange your weekend.
What? Offense number 1, driving without particulars. Offense number 2, trying to bribe an officer of the law.
I won't harass Nigerians or take bribe. Change begins with me.
This message is brought to you by the National Orientation Agency in conjunction with the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
Thanks for rejoining us on Good Morning Nigeria. Now, does effective tax regime ensure sustainable economic growth? Well, let's find out details with Kolo Mohammed on Business News.
Financial flows greases the engine of an economy, except of course when the flow is illicit. It denies the economy imperatives for growth and stability.
Illicit financial flows deny the country of the right tax that they deserve for the business that has been run within the economy and for which the companies are supposed to pay tax. If we're able to get the tax that we deserve rightfully, legally, we do not need to worry about natural resources. Natural resources are wasting most of the time, wasting resources. They have lifespan, they run out. But so long as there are human beings who are doing things, there would always be income from taxations. Many countries develop on tax income.
Another imperative that can sufficiently drive an economy is the transport sector. This requires efficient infrastructure to succeed.
Now, as far as transportation is concerned, it is important that we have modern, efficient infrastructure. The economy is driven by transportation. If you have modern transport infrastructure, you have efficient economy. If you have sluggish, old, outdated infrastructure, then you have sluggish economy. It follows.
That's Business News at this time. My name is Kolo Mohammed. Be with you again soon.
Thank you very much, Kolo Mohammed, for the business news package. Up next on Good Morning Nigeria is a review of some of the national dailies.
And our newspaper reviewer, Bayo Toby, is in the studio. Welcome to Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you, Juma. Good morning. Good morning, Rhoda.
It's
good
good
morning,
to see you
Nigeria.
again this morning.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, we have about 3 papers with us this morning, and that's the Daily Sun, we have the Leadership, and of course, I think we have the New Telegraph. But then let's begin with the Leadership. The Leadership just below the nameplate, illegal tax, all unions may strike over GER code dispute, and below that it says Transport University will open opportunities for economic growth, says President Muhammadu Buhari. That's on page 5. Now the big story that's on the front page of the Leadership this morning is federal government rakes in 8 billion naira daily from border closure. Federal government rakes in 8 billion naira daily from border closure, with a rather then no date for reopening of borders, says President Muhammadu Buhari. That's on page 4, and that's the lead story for the Leadership this morning. And just below that, xenophobia South African policeman jailed for 30 years for killing Nigerian. That's good news. South African policeman jailed for 30 years for killing Nigerian. And just below the picture story that's on the front page of the Leadership this morning was that of President Muhammadu Buhari, of course, the governors, the Minister of Transportation, Rotimi Amechi, yesterday at performing the groundbreaking ceremony of the University of Transportation in Dora, Katsina State, and that was just yesterday. Below that, Senate admits sharing government jobs amongst family and friends. That's on page 5. You want to know more, pick up a copy of Leadership. And then below that, we have some earpiece there, quite little. It says police recruitment court dismisses police service commission suit against IGP. That's on page 13. On page 2, you can read up. Plot to remove Magu thickens. Bielsa governorship, PDP says, will pursue case to logical end. And that's by Dixon. That's on page 6. Finally, court orders temporary forfeiture of Saraki's Ilorin houses. That's on page 14. Those are the stories trending on the front page of the Leadership this morning. Jimmy, what's on the Daily
On
Sun?
the Daily Sun newspaper, just beside the masthead, intense lobby, intrigue, Algov, EFCC over chairmanship. You find that story on page 6. And the bold headlines there, IGP floors Police Service Commission on fresh recruitment, with rider court strikes out suit against Adamu. That story is on page 6. And the picture story there, President Muhammadu Buhari with Governor Abdullahi Umar Nduje Kano, Governor Aminu Bello Matsari Katsina, and Minister of Transportation Chibuike Amechi right during the groundbreaking ceremony of the University of Transportation in Douala yesterday. And just beside the picture story, Kano initiates fresh bill to revive nullified emirate councils. That story you find on page 44. Rivers Gaba, appeal court affirms Wike's re-election with a rider as governor appoints 15 special advisors. You find that story on page 42. I have no regrets citing transport varsity in Daura. That's coming from the Minister of Transportation, Amechi. That's on page 40. And at the bottom plate of the Daily Sun newspaper, NLC kicks over sack of 1,000 bankers. If you just get the Daily Sun, you find that story on page 2.
All right, Bayo, let's begin with the Transportation University. That was, of course, the groundbreaking was yesterday, first of its kind in West Africa, and of course, a specialized one.
Well, the idea of the University of Transportation is the concept of the Minister of Transportation, Rotimi Amechi, and he insisted on 3 conditions when we signed an agreement with the Chinese. And the 3 conditions were to train Nigerians, secondly, to also provide locomotive training and establishment where Nigerians can build their own construction in the long run, and thirdly, university or tertiary institutions for transportation. And so Minister Rotimi Amechi says that he has no regret in citing the university in Daura. The minister revealed that 60 Nigerians are currently on the training and studying in railway technology in China, and another 90 will soon join. He also said that a wagon factory has already been sited at Kajola in Ogun State to take care of the need for Nigerians to be able to produce our own locomotive and wagons in the long run. The Polytechnic is also in the offing and may be likely sited in Rivers State. In his opening comment, President Muhammadu Buhari thanked the government of China for their contribution, particularly to the Nigerian economy and the industrial development of Nigeria. The University of Transportation is said to be the first of its kind in Africa, and it will enhance the technical skills, enhance managerial capacity, as well as pave way for innovations and create jobs for Nigerians. The president says Nigeria is quite grateful to the Chinese government. The university is to be built by the China's Civil Engineering Construction Company in 2 years. Katsina State government is so enamored, and it has provided a land area of about 4.5 hectares for the university. The managing director of the Chinese construction company, as well as the Chinese ambassador, all expressed gratitude for the opportunity and good relations with Nigeria. Now, going to the courts, there are two cases that we've read about in the court. One, I don't like the way Sun captured their title. Where we are in an era of democracy, and in an era of democracy is the rule of law. When there's a contention, you go to court and resolve it. And that is exactly what the Police Service Commission did. And the court, in its wisdom, has ruled that it has held the power of the Nigerian police force under the guidance of the Inspector General of Police to recruit constables into the Nigerian police force. Justice Inyan Eko dismissed the suit by the Police Service Commission, challenging the NPF and the Inspector General of Police to recruit 10,000 constables. The court explained that the law guiding the enlistment of constables was the Nigerian Police Regulation of 1966, and this was issued by the President in accordance with Section 46 of the Police Act in 1967. Therefore, the court ruled that by virtue of Section 71 of the Nigerian Police Force Service Regulation and 1968, gave powers to enlist the police into the Nigerian Police Force to the Inspector General of Police. And it also explained what the role of the Police Service Commission is. He said, by Police Service Commission, by its enabling law, has exclusive power to promote, demote, dismiss, and discipline any police officers aside Inspector General of Police. Police Service Commission can only appoint constables after recruitment by the Inspector General of Police.
So what is the bone of contention there?
Well, the Police Service Commissioners felt that it was its duty to do the recruitment, and therefore the Inspector General of Police and the police management were usurping their powers, and that has been clarified now, and so we can go ahead with the 10,000 that was approved, and I think another 40,000 has also been approved in the offing to boost the manpower of the Nigerian police force. The other court case is in regards to property belonging to the former governor of Kwara State and the former Senate president, that the Federal High Court in Ikoyi has ordered to be forfeited. Again, according to the evidence provided by the Economy of Financial Crime, it was said that for every time the Kwara State government between the year 2003 to 11 got allocation for the federation account, 100 million was deposited in the government house account, and an officer, an operative of the government house by name Afiz Yusuf, will withdraw that same amount of money and pass them on to government house. EFCC believes it is monies from this foundation account that were used to develop two properties, one at number 10, the other is number 11, Abdulkadir Road, GRA, Ilorin. And the court has now ordered that costs should be shown before December 17th, while the property should not be fully forfeited to the federal government.
And another story in the Daily Sun, NLC kicks over sack of 1,000 bankers. That's a lot in the mobile market now.
Well, the banks have been in the business of having what they call recruitment of tellers. They do it in the proxy. They appoint an agent outside and they employ these tellers to work in the bank. It is a strategy that is very suspicious. Ideally, the tellers are supposed to pay about 100,000 naira a month. The amount goes to the agency outside that is appointing, and they pay the tellers
Half
only
of
about 40,000.
40.
And this exploitation had come to the fore by the Nigerian Labour Congress and also the Federal Ministry of Labour and Employment. And we're looking into this. And this is why I think there is this stampede to lay off some of these workers. But Nigerian Labour Congress is putting his feet down and trying to challenge the procedure. But let's see how it turns out.
All right, Bayo, let's quickly take our editorial for today, and it's on the New Telegraph. It's on page 15 of the New Telegraph. It's on the NFF Raw and Raw. It's titled NFF Raw Field Not Good for Football Growth. And I'll just take the first paragraph. I'll just take some lines from the first paragraph. The Nigerian Football Federation, NFF, has witnessed so many crises in the past years, and in most cases, the beautiful game suffers for it. And of course, the issue here, Bayo, is that there's an issue. Actually, there's been an issue going on with the NFF and Raw. Before now, there were rumors that he, would be sacked, but he's still there doing his job. At one point, he was granting interviews he ought not to grant, and there's been a lot of pressure on him lately. And always, the game suffers.
Well, whenever there is a disagreement between the Football Federation and the lead coach, always it is the football that suffers. Yeah. But the editorial is happening on the fact that we are now lucky to have a set of generation of players who are exposed internationally, and because age is on their side, we stand a chance that we will be able to sustain them, that in the next 2 World Cup they could come up prominently as potential world-class beaters. But however, there are disagreements between the Nigerian Football Federation and the coach, Gernot Raw, and the editorial is happening on the fact that unless these sundry issues are resolved, it will consequently impact and undermine the competencies and the gelling together of our Super Eagles.
Let me push this a little bit.
Yes.
Do you have any idea on what the issues are?
The issues are related to salaries and allowances.
All right, we're back there again. We're back there again, Bayo. Always issues of salaries and allowances for coach. Well, what's the problem?
Players at times.
Almost all the time.
There's a lot of challenge in the Nigerian Football Federation. Already there are implications about funds directed by the Federation of International Football Association for football development that are meant for football development but are allegedly being deployed otherwise. And unless that is a challenge for the Minister for Youth and Sports, Sunday Dari, to look into all those, because these are the sundry issues that become distraction for our players. You could recall that even at the last Cup of Nations, our players almost staged a demonstration about the allowances. Even at our players that represented us at the Female World Cup in France also had a challenge with their bonuses and
allowances. I doubt if there's any game that, any competition that we've ever gone for, and then we come back and we don't hear issues of allowances have not been paid, hotels. You understand what I'm trying to say?
Yes.
And all of this continues to affect the growth of the game.
Sport, pointed out that he had critical information that before our players went for any international competition, the bonuses for the first round, the second round, up to the final is always paid for and budgeted for. Yeah. Now, what happens is that the moment the players fail to qualify beyond the second round, nothing comes back to the coffers again. That has been budgeted for goes off without anybody accounting for it. Okay. So these are the areas that have to be looked into. Because look at our national stadium. You can see the situation that it is. The national stadium also in Lagos. So much so that when we have international tournaments, we have to go and play either at Asaba or go to Uyo to go and play. Yes. So something has to be done.
Yes, what beats me is why can't individuals, private individuals, we love football in this country, if stakeholders come together and, work with government to ensure that these players are paid on time, if you know that your money is in there and your money is at stake, I think Nigerians will be able to have a voice in our football. All the time is government, government, government.
Well, we have the situation in Nigeria and most African countries whereby it is government that supports sports. Yes. And that has been a challenge. Elsewhere, in Europe, in America, the sports entities are established on their own, and they seek the well-being and the corporate cooperation of public institutions, private institutions to help fund sports, and they are doing very well. Here we have a challenge. Private individuals want to contribute. Private companies want to contribute, but they want to make sure that the funds they provide for are properly and judiciously used.
And sometimes, too, you know, these individuals want to have a say in what goes on in the game of football, and that could be a problem too.
The problem again is in how persons are elected into the Nigerian Football Federation.
All right, thank you very much, Maya, for being here this morning. Hopefully we'll see you again tomorrow morning. You're watching Good Morning Nigeria. We'll take a break now, and when we come back, we'll be looking at discrimination against persons living with disability. We'll be back in just a moment.
Every day.
Nestle, good food, good life.
20 years of travel and counting. 20 years of promoting tourism in Africa and diaspora. Over 3 million kilometers traveled. Over 30 African countries visited. Explored the diaspora in 4 continents. Connected over 100,000 happy tourists to Africa. Reached over 50 million homes, igniting smiles across Africa and beyond. As Goge Africa turns 20, we thank you and invite you to join us in the quest for 20 must-visit destinations in partnerships with the largest TV network in Africa, the NTA, Ministry of Information and Culture, Ministry of Transportation, Studio 24, Delta Airline, Toll Brokers International. You too can still be a partner. Call the numbers on your screen or info@gogeafrica.tv. Goge Africa, celebrating 2 decades of heritage, travel and tourism.
Not so fast. Look, I'm tired. I want to check out of this country for greener pastures.
Just calm down for a moment. Please sit down.
Do you have a job where you're going to? No, but someone is arranging, you know...
Listen, Alinko. Checking out of this country without proper planning means one thing. Unimaginable begin. You know, I've been in the diaspora, but legitimately doing great things at home and abroad. As I've been saying, without the proper footing abroad, the risk is not worth it. Listen, Alinko, it's better to be home than be trapped abroad, or even end up in prison.
My name is Giato Adeza Adams, the General Manager, Corporate and Strategic Communications, Nigerian Port Authority. As regards the land borders closure, available statistical data from APMT, which is one of our terminal operators that is involved in container handling terminal, has recorded an increase of 200 TEUs of cargoes into their terminal as a result of cargo diversion from the vessels originally meant for neighboring countries. That shows you that the terminal operators is going to have an increase in revenue, which is accrued to the terminal, and at the same time, Nigerian Port Authority will equally benefit from the revenue increase. So that is the benefit we have derived from the border closure.
The new edition of TV Guide is out, exclusively taking a look at the traditional television and new media. Are they comparable or complementary? Media industry players give perspective on the trends, progress, challenges, and the way forward. Find out on this compelling edition of TV Guide. Expository interviews with stars of the team within our space. Becky Madojemo of NTA, Utibe Umore of AIT, Nifemi Oguntai of TVC, and a host of others. TV Guide, your indispensable companion. Also feature Iya Medina.
I'm the CEO, managing director of Iya Medina Sister Restaurant. I choose to serve. Shut up your mouth. Let me finish.
A TV drama series on NTA, Let's get to meet the characters behind Iya Modina. This edition also presents exciting features on tourism, culture, entertainment, sports, health, and lots more. Grab a copy at the vendors near you or any NTA station nationwide. TV Guide, your indispensable companion.
If you're just joining us, this is Good Morning Nigeria and we're live in Abuja. Today is International Day of People Living with Disability. Let's take this background report by Aisha Ubali.
Over the years, persons with disability in Nigeria have felt neglected and marginalized. Available data from the World Health Organization shows that about 1.5% of the population and at least 25 million have one form of disability or the other. Correspondent Omotola Omojola, in a report concerning persons with disability, highlighted some of the major issues they face, such as human abuse, stigma, discrimination, violence, and lack of access to healthcare, housing, and education. Whether for economic or social reasons, people living with disabilities have to deal with these challenges on a daily basis. Another major challenge for them is getting around in public transportation. Their capacity to commute or travel independently is severely compromised by the fact that mass transport buses across the country lacks the necessary infrastructure that can ease their access. Towards alleviating their plight and challenges, there have been various attempts by pressure groups and concerned citizens to get a disability bill passed into law. But the bill did not see the light of the day. However, with the concern of the Buhari administration to the plight of people living with disability, the narrative for the group of persons has changed. The Discrimination Against Persons with Disability Act 2018, after relentless and sustained advocacy, was finally passed in January this year. 3rd December is the International Day of People Living with Disabilities, and questions such as what has happened to the provisions made available in the Act since its enactment come readily to mind. How effective has the implementation been? These and more are what guests would discuss on Good Morning Nigeria today.
All right, thank you very much. And if you're just joining us on the program, we're in our discussion segment and we're discussing the discrimination against persons with disability. And today happens to be the International Day for Disability. And of course, we have with us in the studio Jake Epele. He is the founder, Albino Foundation, and of course he's a regular on Good Morning Nigeria. Epele, it's good to have you join us this morning.
Thank you.
And we have with us Paul Ikweoba. He is from the Global and Justice Incorporated Disability and Human Rights Advocacy Organization. Thank you for coming on the program this morning.
Thank you very much.
And of course, during the program, we expect to join us Senator Francis Ali Mihena. He is the sponsor of that bill, and that's the bill that has to do with discrimination against persons with disability acts. And also we expect to join us Dr. Irene Idwogu, who's Executive Director of Disability Rights Advocacy Center. We hope that both of them will join us in the course of this conversation. But Jake Epele, let's begin with you. Today happens to be 3rd of December. Internationally, it's celebrated for persons with disability. And just January this year, President Muhammadu Buhari assented to that bill. It's been 11 months or 10 months. How far so far?
We're still far. But we're grateful that on the 23rd of January, the president signed the bill. But then implementation is a problem. And I believe if we are serious and we want to implement, there have to be mechanisms like agencies that will do the implementation. You know, part of the component of the bill empowers the government to establish a commission for a disability commission, you know. And if that commission has been in place, implementation would have been a little bit more easier. At the moment, what I would say is that there are individual implementers. Like I went to one of the hotels in Abuja, and they wouldn't want me to park where persons with disability are given the spot that they are given to park. And I had to explain and got them to understand that albinism is part of the community. And then eventually I was given the spot to park. So there's been sporadic implementation by individuals, the likes of myself, Paul, Irene, and several other individuals and organizations who are doing their work to ensure implementation becomes a reality.
Okay, thank you so much. Let me come to Paul now. Apart from implementation, 9 years of gruesome advocacy finally signed into law. How does it feel?
Wow. Thank you very much. Let me start by correcting my name. Ihe Kwaba. Paul, please. Yes, thank you. Ihe Kwaba Paul. Yes, honestly, what can I say? We are so grateful, very grateful to Mr. President for doing the needful at a time it was very politically expedient. And we appreciate that so much because we have been on the vanguard for this bill to become a reality. And, you know, like a boom, it happened. Very unexpectedly, though. Now, having said that, there is still, as my brother said, there is still a highway to go. You know, that bill has about 8 parts. Okay. Right. Part 1 talks about, prohibition of discrimination. That is part 1, section 1, subsection 1. You know, and then section 2 of that bill talks about awareness. Now, we have done the first, we have created an act on disability. But I tell you, 99.9 of Nigerians are yet unaware of any act of that nature. They don't even know. Now, there is a need for that awareness, and awareness will come up if part 7 and 8, which is about the commission, is brought into place, because it is the commission that will facilitate and galvanize the momentum for the awareness we created. You understand? And the discrimination aspect is still, in so many places. Let me give you about 2 instances. Number 1, I traveled to village, and I went to a village and to see a friend, and he said, "Wow, that was some years ago." He said, "Oh, do you know we have somebody here?" And that guy is about 40 plus, and he's been locked inside because the family don't want visitors to know that they have such a person, and he's been locked inside. So I drove there, and I was so touched, and I insisted that they should bring him out, and they brought him out. And then I said, "You guys were happy because they saw me on my car and came out from a big car." We're like, "This man you are celebrating, if he was locked up, like you locked this guy up, you'll be celebrating me." There is no difference between me and this guy. Nothing. His faculty is perfect, just as mine is perfect. His problem is that there's a paralysis just the limbs. Why do you not confine him like an animal in a place? Now, I was also driving. I went to see somebody, and this was in Abuja, in Soka, and I passed a young boy, a very small boy, and he's crippled, very dirty kept. So when I was coming back, I couldn't, because it's my nature. That is, I don't see such things and pass. It's not possible. So I stopped, and I thought he has some kind of mental problem. But when I started interacting with this young man, believe me, his faculty is superb, very sound, very wonderful. And I said, "Well, what's the problem? How are you so far?" 15 years old. He's a twin. The twin is in JS2. He himself has not seen the 4 walls of kindergarten. Discrimination. The family said they don't have money to train him. They have, because I have talked with the father. You know, so we are doing something to ensure that a young man goes back to school. He has mobility. We're making a provision for him to get the mobility so that he can be able to move around. So you can see there are so many in this area of discrimination. Yours sincerely also, while I was doing youth service many years ago, I came out to contest position. CDS, right? What do they call it? Community CD. Yes. Beautiful. So I was in a CD group known as Mass Literacy. So they said election, and I felt that I'm qualified. And very unfortunately, it was option A4. You must queue behind your man. So I came out for president. They said, look at this guy on clutches. What do you think this is a charity something? And my case was what my mommy said at Jibril. Nobody stood behind me. I was alone. So I fell. And then I insisted again. When they called for PRO, I came out and said, this is where I live in. So, but something happened. 6 months into that very year of service, we had a zonal meeting. The ZI called me apart and said, you are Paul Nyekwaba. I said, yes, sir. Oh, say, congratulations. I said, why? I said, yes, your group told me that all the concepts and initiatives you guys have done, because your group's outstanding in doing projects. You have done a lot of projects. And they said all of them came from you. They said that you are their president de facto. Today, they want to impeach the president and make you the president job. I said, wow, that's awesome. But I'm sorry, I declined. So what? I said, no, sir. If what they said is true, which I accept, and it's being done as a PRO, I'm okay with that. The president is my friend. The president is a serving army captain from Edo. So you can see, after the whole thing, when we went out, they came and said, sorry, we thought that your clutches is an impediment. So a lot is done in terms of awareness, and discrimination is still going on everywhere in all sectors.
Thank you very much, Paul. Jake Pele, he just spoke, before we begin to go into other issues as to the challenges you're having with the bill, other issues that needs to be handled. Let's talk about the bill itself. What are the acts? What are the components? Because he spoke about, he said there are about 8 acts, and then he's spoken about 10 of them. Okay, so speak to us about some of them. He's spoken about, I think, 4 now.
Well, there's a whole lot of component that speaks to discrimination, awareness creating and program, penalties for when you contravene certain aspect of the act. But like I said, and like he said, the most important component of that is the establishment of the commission, because that's what will run all of the other components of the act, and also be able to do some sort of a need assessment so that government can know where to put funds and programs to help persons with disability.
Since the act was signed, has there been any visible or noticeable difference in the lives of people with disability?
I would say, like I said, self-advocates. There's been quite a lot of members of the community have geared up and wants to, one way or the other, protect their rights. Okay. The awareness within the community is very, very prominent. It's very high. And it gives us hope that something will be done. Okay. And hopefully, government will establish this commission so that, and we're not asking for commission for people without disability, because usually that's what happens. Before you know it, you'll find people who have nothing to do with the community running the commission. The commission should be run by people with disability. So that, because you don't know what I go through as a person with albinism. I mean, we're talking about discrimination. Somehow, I think we're the worst hit, you know.
How do you mean?
Oh, persons with albinism, our discrimination starts from our mother's womb. Once you're born, my personal story, I mean, people had told me, even family members, you will never do well. No woman will marry you. Yeah, you know, and of course you're in school. Oh, you don't see. You can't see. Of course, we're sight impaired. You know, we can't see from afar. I can't read what is on that screen. I can't see the picture on that screen. You know, it's that bad. I call her my big auntie. Actually, many times I'll pass her. She's my closest friend in NTA. Many times I'll pass her without recognizing her. So we do have that major problem, and that's one visible aspect of persons with albinism that puts us into the framework of persons with disability. You know, we struggle with our sight. You know, so with that said, apart from the commission, government development partners needs to empower organizations, credible organizations that are working in the field of disability. Development partners need to earmark more budget. In the even economic side of the act, there's economic benefit. You know, if, for instance, government begins to help us, development partners, and we bring more awareness to the act, manufacturers of wheelchairs will come in. Structural adjustment, you know, architectural structural adjustment. Can you imagine all the buildings in this country where landlords are now aware that they have to construct ramp, they have to make it disability friendly? You know, that's a whole lot of job for a lot of people. You know, little things that can be manufactured. You know, money can also come to government if, for instance, you discriminate me. There's a penalty you pay for discriminating me. That money goes to judiciary. You know, so there's an economic aspect of the act which is beneficial to the government, to the community. You know, so bottom line, we need to start doing something now. The opportunity is enormous, and the community are ready.
Okay, talking about doing something now, Mr. Paul, in 2011, WHO said we have 25 million Nigerians with disability. Can we put a figure on it now?
Well, that's a very big question. Some time ago, I had a meeting with the management of MPC, National Population Commission, and it was baffling to realize that they have no specific data on disability.
In Nigeria?
Yes, it's captured. Us, you know, they don't even know how many blinds, how many physically, how many leprosy, how many intellectual disability. You know, they don't have such. And in fact, even the building they were, their permanent structure, they don't even know that there is a need for stability. You know, it was in the course of discussion that they have to call the building engineer and say, please tell him to withdraw and do an adjustment. And that was baffling. So I think that goes as a question. That means if the body that is commissioned, mandated to collect the census of Nigerians, do not have us in their program as a day, then it speaks a lot. So today we are still working on WHO UN standard of getting 15% of population of people that makes disability. So that is what we're working on. That places today as at 27 point something million Nigerians, and that is also very important. The government should at this point realize that there is a need to ensure that people with abilities are treated on equal basis. And for you to really affect the life of these people, you need to understand the statistics, how many there are, so that it will help in planning. How many are blind? How many are physically challenged? How many are amputees? How many are lepers that have finger problem? How many? So, and because their specialties determines their, their challenges determines the approach, to their challenge. Because we're not all the same. So you don't give a wheelchair to a blind man; it's useless. You don't give a cane, to a man, who's physically challenged. It's useless. So you must apportion these things accordingly. So, and that is why, going back to what the assembly, the commission becomes, because the commission have to be the hub, that will galvanize all things, that will create a synergy among all this, so that they can all work together and to achieve this purpose. That's why we say that Mr. President have done a lot by signing this bill. But I must say, with every sense of humanity, that if the act stopped by this government, they just give us a handset without a SIM card, and that becomes very progress.
Let me talk a little bit about the data. A number of persons with disability organization had gotten involved in data collection, and the Albino Foundation did. Currently, we've done 9 states of trying to know the actual number of persons with albinism, and it's the model is interesting because the data analysis is done in disaggregated form, so you can actually tell persons with albinism who is a lady, a girl, a child, and what type of albinism. People think that all types of albinism is the same. There are 2 types of albinism, major 2 categories, which is the ocular, that's you're affected by your eyes only, and then oculocutaneous, which is myself, and within the confines of oculocutaneous type of albinism, the research have shown that there are 4 types. There are more researches that are going on now that is bringing it up to 7 types, So we've done that. In terms of persons with disability, for us to participate in the electoral process, INEC chairman, Professor Mahmood, challenged me in a meeting and says, give me the number of persons with disability. And of course, as God will have it, we competed with about 99 organizations, and we won the disability component for the European Union. And we were allowed to work in 3 locations: Abuja, Ekiti, Osun. And in all of those locations, we've collected data of eligible persons with disability. And it's so unique that we were able to apportion this data by the unit, by the polling unit. So in other words, if you come to polling unit A, we can tell you that there are 10 people who are visually impaired, 20 people on physically challenged, 5 people who have leprosy, and all, so that way, or 20 persons with albinism. So the benefit of that is that INEC is able to deploy the right electoral material to where it is needed. And like Paul says, data is the life of development work. It gives you, it's not only does it give you a need assessment so that you know exactly how to intervene, it tells you the number of people to intervene, it tells you their category so that you know where to deploy the much needed resources. Data is the life of development work, and if we must succeed in finding a lasting solution for persons with disability, we must start by a simple baseline study. Baseline, midline, and endline studies. Very important.
All right, Jacob Pele, thank you very much for your thoughts. We'll take a break now, and of course, there are lots of issues to talk about here. We're still looking at, just as Paul had said earlier, people complying to build structures. We're looking at, people with disabilities trying to get admission into universities, trying to get jobs. These are challenges that people with disability go through every day. And of course, the Act also criminalizes, there's a provision that criminalizes, discrimination against persons with disability. We'll look at all of that just after this break. Stay with us.
Hey, bro, what's up, man? Wait. Sure, son, I want the bicycle.
Enjoy more data than before on Airtel Home Broadband. Get up to 160 gigabytes on routers with 25,000 naira and 55 gigabytes on Airtel Wi-Fi's with 12,000 naira. More data, more you. Reliable home broadband by Airtel, the smartphone network.
They swore an oath to serve our fatherland and defend the people. They traded their freedom, comfortable homes, and mortgaged their lives on the battleground for our unity and peaceful living. These are the great, fearless, loyal, and committed Nigerian armed forces who risked their lives courageously to safeguard our borders. But in the line of duty, many never returned. Nigerians, arise, let's celebrate our fallen heroes. Put on the remembrance emblem with pride to support the incapacitated and families of our fallen heroes.
It is indeed befitting the honorable memory of the gallant authors and men who paid the supreme sacrifice.
President Muhammadu Buhari joins all ministries, parastatals, religious and corporate bodies to donate generously to the Emblem Appeal launch. Send your donations to these accounts. Account name, Emblem Appeal launch. Account number 393-200-7526. Ecobank Nigeria PLC.
Breakfast your day every day.
Nestle, good food, good life.
My name is Yemi Adetunji, the COO downstream of NNPC. Ever since the closure of the borders, we have seen a marked reduction, about 10%, in terms of the evacuation of what you call loadouts of PMS, which equates to about 6 million liters per day, essentially because of the border closure, because of certain aspects we've also done as NNPC, working with our sister organizations, sister agencies, the Nigerian Customs, DPR, Federal Ministry of Petroleum Resources, and other agencies, and also what we call Operation White, which is an intervention we have put in place to trace and track every molecule of petroleum products as they arrive in country through the vessels, as they move through the depots, and they're evacuated with trucks out of the depots.
Advertising your goods and services on the right channel gives you an edge over your competitors. NTA News 24 has all the platforms for your target audience. The station is on DSTV channel 419, GoTV channel 46, StarTimes channel 101, Free TV channel 703. With our digital format and wide range, we can reach your customers in next to no time. We are eager to promote your business, goods and services. So, partner with us for a very rewarding business experience. For more information, please call Henry on 0803-379-0884 or visit our office at NTA Headquarters, Area 11, Garki, Abuja. NTA News 24. News and more news.
You are watching NTA, Nigerian Television Authority. For more information and news updates, visit our website at www.nta.ng, or you can follow us on Twitter at NTA News Now, or you can like us on Facebook at NTA Network News. Stay connected on our YouTube channel at www.youtube.com/NTA News Online. Watch our live stream at www.nta.ng/live. NTA, you can't beat the rich.
Nigerians. Suicide bombers are not spirits. They are not ghosts. They are human beings like you and me. They live amongst us. They are your neighbors. They are your friends today, but terrorists tomorrow. So you must know your neighbor now. Security begins with you and me. Know your neighbor. Be vigilant. Be security conscious. Report suspicious persons, objects and movements to the police and other security agencies. The security of our nation is a duty for you and me.
If you see something, say something. Nigeria unite against terrorism. This message is brought to you by the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
Advertising your goods and services on the right channel gives you an edge over your competitors. NTA News 24.
Welcome back, and if you've just joined us, you're watching Good Morning Nigeria. We're live on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority, and today happens to be the International Day of Persons with Disability. It's the 3rd of December every year, and we've been speaking with Jake Pele, who's the founder of the Abuja Foundation, and also we've had Paul okay, all right, who's also from the Global Justice Incorporated Stability and Human Rights Advocacy Organization. I indicated earlier during the beginning of this conversation that we're still expecting Senator Francis Ali Mihena, who is the sponsor of, who sponsored that bill, which is now an act. And of course, I indicated that Dr. Irene Patrick Ogbogu would join us, and she's here with us in the studio this morning. Dr. Irene Patrick Ogbogu, welcome to Good Morning Nigeria. Let's now begin with you. Of course, we asked Jacob Pele and Paul earlier, how far, from their perspective, they thought, with the act that has been established, what impact it's already making in the lives of people living with people with disability. From your perspective, how far do you think we have come, especially with the fact that that act came into law in January this year? It's been 10 months so far. How far do you think we have come?
Well, I think it's at a very important time in our lives, where this is the first time, the first International Day of Persons with Disabilities in Nigeria, where we'll be celebrating with the existence of a legal framework that protects the rights of persons with disabilities. So for us, it's a time to be happy, a time to be joyful. But we also have to temper some of that our joy with some questions, like why is the act not yet being implemented? So it's about 11 months now since the president magnanimously signed that act into law. But not much has been heard about what next is going to happen, its implementation, and all of that. But we're happy. The community of persons with disabilities in Nigeria are grateful to the National Assembly for passing the law in the first place, and very grateful to President Buhari for signing it. But the question has to be asked, after signing it, what next? So while we're happy, we also need to see some forward movement towards the implementation of the Act.
So what are the gaps, stopping implementation?
For now, I think it's just, I'll call it political will commitment from the relevant agencies. Even the National Assembly cannot relax and just say, okay, they've done the debate and they've passed the law. It needs to go beyond that. So while persons with disabilities, on the one hand, are continue to engage, continue to advocate, we want to see a situation where the relevant ministries begin to identify their roles in the Act and begin to play those roles towards its implementation. We recently have disability issues now housed under the Federal Ministry for Humanitarian Affairs, which is newly established. That ministry, or the Ministry for Women Affairs, where we were before, needs to immediately transmit a letter to the presidency, to the Secretary of the Federal Government, asking for the at least appointment of the members of that commission, because the law states very clearly who the members of the commission will be, and persons with disabilities are part of that, representatives of line ministries, departments and agencies, the Human Rights Commission, the National Orientation Agency, all of that. The office of the SGF needs to immediately appoint people into the commission, and once that happens, we have a commission, and then the executive secretary should also be appointed, who should be a person with disability. I think we also need a space, and there are structures lying all around the FCT that can be utilized to give persons with disabilities a befitting commission, a befitting structure, so that the Act can begin to be implemented. Persons with disabilities have a place to go. We can begin to monitor compliance with the provisions. Certain parts of the law give a period of 5 years for certain aspects to be implemented. When are we going to start counting the 5 years?
And the year is almost gone.
The year is almost gone, so 1 year is gone. So we can't afford to just relax. Everybody that should play a role should get up and start playing the role. So we will continue to engage. We will continue to draw their attention to what needs to be done, but it has to take off immediately.
I want to ask you, what's the average or normal day of a person, just as yourself, a person with disability? What are challenges that you go through daily?
This is a question that, as simple as that question is, it has diverse answers, because persons with disabilities are not a homogeneous group. We, as our disabilities are different, so are our challenges. So are the ways we experience the disability, so are the ways we are disadvantaged. I am a wheelchair user. On the average, I cannot access at least 90% of the structures in the FCT. So a simple day for me will be a day where you have to go to certain places, you have to be in certain meetings, but you have to be carried into those meetings. So imagine me, a woman in a wheelchair, and men have to be lifting me up and down in the process. My dress will fall open in the process. People are touching me where they shouldn't be touching me, through no fault of theirs, but because the society is hostile. The society is not accessible. People do not construct buildings, structures with persons with disabilities in mind. The same thing with someone who is deaf. They are going through a silent world. but nobody sees it. Every day they are confronted with different challenges where they cannot communicate because they cannot hear. And people still do not see the need to, put sign language interpreters in the various services that are available to the public. Even things as basic as subtitling messages, visual messages, and all of that is still lacking. The same thing. So, like I said, as different as our disabilities are, those so also are our challenges and the disadvantages that we encounter on a daily basis.
Capella, I'll ask you the same question.
Let me prefer a solution. You asked a very pertinent question about what can be done. Can we use this platform to appeal to the federal government? The first place to start implementation, can we have a presidential task force, few people that can come, look at the arts, see what parts can be implemented now, put it in 3 dimensions, short term, medium term, long term. What can we implement now? What is it that we can implement later? What is it that we can implement in the future? So let's have a presidential task force of persons with disability and government officials, because it will be a total disservice if everybody sits in a cozy, air-conditioned office and hand out what should be done. They need to engage the community. Yeah. What do I go through on a daily basis? I struggle with my sight. I cannot stay in the sun more than 10 minutes. 10 minutes after I'm burnt. I am a skin cancer survivor. I had skin cancer and I had to go for surgery February, exactly on the 14th of February when the whole world was celebrating love. I was on a surgical table. Thank God it's successful. But as we speak, there are nothing less than 6 persons with albinism that are critical. Their situation is critical at the National Hospital. So we do go through a lot of challenges, discriminate. They still call me Oyubo Pepe. Somebody sees my wife and he tells my wife, I say, how do you cope with this thing? And then
he calls it a thing.
Yeah. Yes. Oh yes. As a matter of fact, I remember those days. Thank God for deliverance. That you used to get. I had a girlfriend that we went to a party, and the mother came into the party and said, "Oh, persons with albinism. In fact, albinos don't near my house. This is a taboo. You either ask him to go, or I shut down the party." And of course, the girlfriend wanted party, and I had to be told to leave. So I left, and that was the end of the relationship. Because she wouldn't go with me. All right. So these are things that we go through on a daily basis. I don't want to talk about what our the women folk go through. All kinds of abuse. So it's a daily issue that needs proactive, pragmatic, strategic approach. And the government has what it takes. They don't need money to start this implementation. They don't need money to start it. They just need brains. And the opportunities are enormous. I know a development partner in this country that had to take back their money because there was no structure and there was no, there's a whole lot that this commission can do. It will give impetus to my organization, Irene's organization, my brother Paul's organization, and give us the platform to express ourselves, to help and build this country. We all have, look at somebody like Irene, look at Paul. We have what we want to contribute to nation building. Give us a chance. Give us the opportunity.
Okay, still talking about ACT, Nigeria ratified the United Nations Convention on the Rights of People with Disability, CRPD, in 2007, and its optional protocol in 2010. Experts say The enactment of this act is only a first in the fulfillment of Nigeria's obligation under the CRPD. So how far have we gone on that?
Again, it's like what we're dealing with the National Act that have not been properly implemented. Nigeria sign is one thing for you to sign, is another thing for you to fulfill the protocols, you know, and that's a major problem. Again, if we have a commission like this, you know, I was talking about the economic importance of establishing things like that, you know, it will help in ensuring the implementation of the act that you just mentioned, you know. So everything is tied around doing something proactive, being proactive, being pragmatic, being strategic, you know, bringing up programs and projects that will help and give life to the community.
All right, Paul, as you also, I'd like to know from you, as you also speak to the challenges that, you know, people, someone like you know, or reports that you get from, you know, your group of people, what you go through. We were speaking earlier, and, you know, one thing that was sure was that this is a federal act. How, I'm asking two questions here. How do we domesticate this? Are there states who already have their own laws in place? Are they being implemented? Those that don't have, how do we get them to be a part of this, or also enact theirs?
Thank you very much. Yeah, let me just comment a bit on what my brother said. You know, on my sister, you know, spoke very much on the commission, and then it was like a solution task force. That would be a quasi commission. So don't give us any task force. Give us the commission, because we live in a country that before you know it, that becomes the rule. You know, that's one. Number two is that, hey, we need money. And I must make it clear that it is not, if there is something I discover in this part of the world, whenever things involve disability, it is handled with flimsy. I remember, tell me any act that has to do with commission that takes so long before the commission or agency comes on board. As they are signing that act into law, the agency is on the formation. NDDC Act is one of them. AMCOM is one of them. All this came, Disability Act has been on ground before they were enacted into law. And immediately it became a law, it became a reality. National, you know, so many of them. So why is it that when disability issue comes, then there is this lackadaisical, you know, attitude towards it? There is this, you know, kind of, you know, it is not a function of privilege. It's a function of right. Disability is a human right issue. So we are not kind of begging, we are demanding as equal stakeholders in this country. Don't do as if you are doing us a favor. You are doing yourself a favor. I wasn't born, you know, on a wheelchair. I was born normal. I was born okay. I was once walking. It came. It can come to anybody. Disability is an unexpected incident that will come when it must come. Therefore, why is this? It's only in this part of the world that we don't plan for tomorrow. It's only when an agency, the DG, had accident and then has watches, they will quickly put around. That's wickedness. That is, we don't care for the site, for the citizenry. When the director have problem, we now one from nowhere they put lift because director of finance is now. So we must understand these things. That's one. Now go back to this what you said, my dear. The act is a national, it's a federal. You know, we are in a federation. Yeah. The states are not mandated actually to implement that act. No, but they are encouraged. They ought to draw, you know, as states that have some level of independence to come up with a law. Because when it is done within the states, it is called a law. Now, in Nigeria, we have very wonderful states who are leading in that direction. We have Lagos, very wonderful. Lagos have gone beyond creating the act. We have an agency that is running. We have Plateau, We have agency that is running. We have Nasarawa. I think the agency is not yet on board, but they are on it. We have Ekiti. We have Anambra, just where I come from. They have, passed their own. I won't mention my state. We have not.
Where is the state?
Imo, we thank God now. We have
progressive.
Yes. We have a Daniel come to judgment, they will say. We have a vibrant governor who have come, the people's governor. I believe that he's listening, or his agents are listening, that in Imo State, one of the most intellectual states in Nigeria, Imo State produces, that is truth.
That's according
to... produces the highest intellectuals with disabilities. I mean, educated.
then the people will start arguing with you.
So now,
former governor was.
If we have such kind of people of a state, and there is no law on disability, it puts a dent. It's a deficit in the character of the leadership of that state.
But what beats me is most of people with disability are in the states. They're not in the state.
That's why there is a need for the states to follow suit, because this very act can only handle federal issues. But the nitty-gritty lies in the states and not government, which is the grassroots. So if the state have no law on disability, we're not yet there. So there's a need for states that have not come up with this to quickly do the needful, because so many. Just as there are so many of us suffer. Look, there are just few of us who are called, the bourgeois among us. But there are the cowards in the remote areas who are suffering. Who, among our women, suffer sexual exploitation. They are good for bed, they are not good for marriage. I have one of them who have been implanted and abandoned. So these are things patent. These are things that laws will cover, take care of. So there are so many. Let's talk about the deaf. There are other intellectual disability. Don't do things about them. All of them are called imbeciles. They're not imbecile, please. So there are so many of us who are suffering so many stigmatization, so many discrimination, and nothing is being done. So it is something not only the government now. The society have to play.
We'll come to that, because I said that before the program, before we wind down, I'm going to ask you, much later, all of you could speak to what, an everyday Nigerian could do to assist before the commission and government, we interact with ourselves every day, so there's a lot that on our own we can do to assist, our brothers and sisters with disability. So I'm going to ask you, there's this, there's 5% vacancy for people with disability, that there's supposed to be a 5% vacancy for people for admission into higher institution. How functional has this been?
Before
public institutions.
Before I speak to that, I just want to say that I think what Jake was meaning by a presidential task force is to ensure that persons with disabilities are carried along. So it's not something meant to replace the commission, but to ensure that we are consulted in the establishment of that commission, because it's very easy, quite easy for people or for the relevant MDAs to forget that persons with disabilities need to be consulted in the establishment of that commission, and they go ahead and make decisions, put things in place, put structures in place that are not even friendly to persons with disabilities. So I just wanted to chip in that I agree that we should have some kind of a parley between the government and the persons with disabilities themselves to begin to take decisions to move forward in the area of establishing that commission. And yes, the law is specific about 5% of all employment that should be reserved for persons with disabilities, and so many other provisions in the law that need to be operationalized immediately. Before now, I'm aware that the Federal Civil Service was giving about 2% of employment to persons with disabilities. Now the law is very clear that it's 5%. But how do we even begin to operationalize that aspect of the law? I know that first of all, we even need to know what is available in the civil service. Are there enough work tools for persons with disabilities to work. It's one thing to offer a person with disability employment. It's another thing to make sure that they are productive in that employment. So a lot of processes need to go through, we need to go into before we even begin to operationalize that. A policy needs to be put in place. Laws are implemented via policies. And it's very important that a policy is put in place and some kind of employment policy that is put in place to operationalize that 5%. Otherwise, we're going to see a situation where persons with disabilities will continue to be out of employment and other people are taking up those positions that have been reserved for persons with disabilities. So for us, again, the important thing is to start with the commission, because the commission can monitor compliance. The commission will ensure that what has been said to be reserved is reserved and is actually given to persons with disabilities.
All right, you're all speaking as though the commission is the...
Yes, it is.
That's why my call and Irene and Paul we can always disagree sometimes to agree. A strategy team, it's not. It has nothing to do with the commission. Because at the end of the day, truth be told, most people in government don't know what our needs are.
Yes.
They don't know how to address our problem. They don't go through what we go through. So there's a need for a synergy of some members of the community and government to sit on a round table to discuss what are the things that you need. How do we do this commission? Otherwise somebody will just sit in the office and criticize the commission, and we will lose at the end of the day.
Before we continue, let's take our tweets. We have tweets coming from our viewers via our Twitter handle at NTAGMN. So if you have comments, you have questions, or I guess here in the studio, just tweet at us at our Twitter handle at NTAGMN. Let's take the tweets that we have now. This one is from Kausa. It says, a pressure group for the establishment of Disability Rights Commission will go a long way.
And Ibrahim Odo Aji tweets, most of them will thrive hard despite their disability and good qualification and facing discrimination in jobs recruitment. It's quite pathetic. Even in government establishments, they are discriminated. There is need for urgent implementation of the Disability Act.
Okay, this question, this is more like a question, a comment. It says, Chris Wogam, he says, I know you meant to say, does NTA have employment opportunity for persons with disability? I know some BBC reporters who are physically challenged, and I hope NTA will walk the talk. Okay, so Chris, we are already walking. Okay, so Jake can speak for us.
There are persons with disability that are employed in NTA, including persons with albinism.
Thank you so much.
The only area we need is stability.
It was a challenge.
We're working on it.
Your DG is a very compassionate person, and I'm not blowing his trumpet, but that's the truth.
Yeah, because he's always giving the NT as a platform whenever there is that opportunity for people with disability. Can I tell you a secret?
He was one of the people who called me to start Albino Foundation.
Wow.
Yes.
Wonderful.
That's the DG of NTA. Yeah. He was one of the people himself, his younger brother,
Abdurrahman.
Yes. And a few other, including late Jibo. They sat me down in Lagos and said, listen, I came on a show and spoke, and they said, look, don't just stop here. Go and start this foundation.
That's our DG for you.
Yes.
Right. Let's move on now.
But you need to also make your building compliant.
We're working on it.
I'm going to meet with the DG and I'm going to tell him that. That's the first thing I'm going to say.
Seriously. Yes, and Chris Simon tweets, it's our place to support persons with disability to improve their well-being, self-esteem and right in the society.
And then the next one is from Comrade Ngala. It says government should treat people with disability equally as they treat other people.
And Titus Monday Knock tweets, persons with disability are highly marginalized in this part of the world, as if they've committed a crime for which it is no fault of theirs. Let's tell ourselves the gospel truth. They deserve a ministry to handle their affairs in the scheme of things in nation building. I be alive.
And Festus Akimboyewa says Persons with Disability Act will protect people living with physical and mental impairment from discrimination, since disabled people need accessibility, housing, education, employment and transportation. Government at all levels must provide the resources needed to make this act meaningful.
And Law Alpha C tweets, it's noteworthy that disabled people of this great country have brought honor and fame despite their frailties and physical inconveniences.
And Law Alpha C says, in Nigeria, if one becomes disabled even on a national service, which is such as, he's referring to himself, which he's going through, the bill is a good one, just like many others, but implementation will always be the bane.
Yes, and more Bola Bob's tweets, government across board, federal government, state and local government must give people with disability equal opportunities when it comes to jobs, promotion and other entitlements. These people need our love. They must not be treated as persona non grata as currently obtained in most establishments. They are humans too.
And also he tweets says it's unfortunate that in this part of the world the people with disability are treated like leprous people, and that's dreaded at workplaces, schools, religious sanctuaries, and sometimes even at home. Meanwhile, these people need empathy. Many of them are not disabled by their own power. He's trying to say that they're not disabled because they want to be, but because somehow life happened to them. Dr. Irene, how much is being done to sensitize employers of labor on the need of people with disability?
I think we're making progress in the area of sensitizing the public generally. Okay. Disability issues were not this prominent 5 years ago. They were not even existent 10 years ago. So I think we've come quite a long way. Everyday organizations like ours, the Albino Foundation, the organization of my brother Paul, we wake up every day thinking, planning, strategizing on how to ensure that the society becomes more inclusive and more accessible to persons with disabilities. The employers of labor have been reached in one way or the other by different organizations to talk about how important it is to create viable opportunities for persons with disabilities to participate in, building the country, developing the country. People seem not to understand that for making reasonable accommodations for persons with disabilities to be able to be productive at work, in the long term, it's affecting the economy of the country. We need to do some kind of cost-benefit analysis of how much persons with disabilities or how much the country is missing out on by not engaging persons with disabilities, whether it is in employment or in making their businesses accessible to persons with disabilities. There was a comment that came from some airline provider about the fact that when we say, make sure that there's ambu lifts to ensure that persons in wheelchairs can be lifted onto the plane without people carrying them. And they said, how many persons with disabilities even fly? That statement sounded so ignorant to me, so offensive to me, because it should occur to people that the reason why persons with disabilities don't fly is because they don't like being carried like a bag of rice. And that's why maybe you don't see them that often. People prefer to go long journeys by road just because they want to avoid that indignity of being lifted up and down. So it's the same thing in so many other sectors. You see people with disabilities not accessing certain services, not present in certain kinds of offices. It's not because they don't want to, but because it is really a challenge to access those services. Sometimes the kind of challenges we face impact on our dignity as humans. So for us, we'll continue to sensitize whoever needs to be sensitized. We'll continue to find creative ways of making people understand that disability can affect anybody. If you don't want to be out of employment, then if you have a disability, why should you not now think of employing people with disabilities in your workplace? Diversity is something that we should encourage, we should recognize in our workplaces. And very importantly now, with this Disability Act that has said 5% of employment should be reserved for persons with disabilities, I think we'll begin to see more persons with disabilities, you know, in employment, whether it is in the public service or in the private sector.
That statement you made now, somebody saying, oh, how many people with disability fly, that's discrimination. And that's serious and this act provides for the fact that that's a criminal penalty. There's a penalty for that, ranging from about, for individuals, 100,000, for companies up to 1 million naira. Has anybody been sued so far in the last 10 months?
Well, so far, you know, the act also provides, you know, moratorium of 5 years before some certain aspect of the law will take effect of, you know, penalty will come. But then we are waiting for that 5 years to elapse, which will surely be one.
So are you saying it's 5 years before that penalty?
5 years, within the time frame of 5 years, the compliance would have been...
We should start.
Yes.
But
you know,
can you wait for 5 years?
No, we won't. But by law, you know, when a law is created, you follow it the way it is.
So that means you can't, just a second, you can't penalize anybody,
no,
right?
You can't. Like, for instance now, I would have been happy to quickly run to court and serve NTA. I said, NTA, I was embarrassed coming here, there was no accessibility, and I quote the section, and if in the next 7 days you don't give me cause to, or this thing, and my lawyers will, you understand? But if I do that, the court will say, no, these people are given 5 years to adjust themselves. So allow them to adjust before you can. So you can't sue now, but you continue to sensitize. Now that takes me to, you know, this societal mal-attitudinal approach to disability. Right. Just as what she said, I went to a state. We went to a state for a program, and we needed, for me, I always insist on disability-friendly hotel if I must do a program there. And we went round. I went round the hotels there. Not even one in that state is at least 50% disability friendly. And then I told them, well, we had to lodge those number of people here. They said, hey, the manager came. The general manager have to come out. I said, sir, this is the money. You don't know that men on this kind of board can come and patronize you and throw millions to you. If you knew, you would have done it. It will cost you less than 100,000 or 200,000 to even do this small needful that can take us. But they don't do it because, just as what you said, how many of them can afford this kind of luxury? The truth is that today, many of us can, and in the near future, so many will always can. So, among us here, there is nobody here that have less than 2 degrees. Nobody here. Nobody has less. There are, you know. So how dare you? The difference between me and you is chance and time. Therefore, why then do you think that you're better off? That's why we must make opportunities for everybody. That's been my passion. So the society have a very unfortunate approach. If they see she's a doctor, not, I was just cracking jokes with her. It's not honorary. It's not a pity doctor. Okay, because of which you're take doctor. Please, it's not a doctor on pity. Yes. He's a PhD holder. Don't even call her doctor. Call her Irene PhD. That's what let back way. It's a doctor because they think is I yes, call me Chief Sam Bakwe PhD. So now he read it. Now with somebody see how without knowing, this first thing is what will she do? But these things, in the course of study, nobody marked her script because she's on wheelchair. Abi? Yes. Nobody. The thesis was written, nobody even knew. All of us passed through. Nobody cares. We don't have a different exam. Lecture room. You have a different lecture room. Everything the same thing. And you came out distinction or whatever, and then at the end of the day, there is discrimination as a on wheelchair. When it's the function, because it's a function of the mind. It is not a function because the birth of a man is not measured by his status, his physique, is by his mental agility and vibrancy and ability.
That's talking about the...
How do we begin to deal with this?
I would like to ask a question on...
How do we begin to... We need more self-advocates within the community. We're talking about implementation. Like I said, I went to a very big hotel and they didn't allow me to park where I had to park. And I had to sensitize them. And I insisted, at the end of the day, I got what I was looking for. So we have to start implementing this thing ourselves. First. We have to start implementing it ourselves. Don't wait
and
for...
the media has a role to play.
Exactly.
Very serious.
Exactly.
And that's what we're doing now. One of my biggest challenges with the media is they prefer to portray persons with disabilities as pitiful characters, as people to be helped, people to be pitied. So I have many occasions where I invite the media to cover some of our programs, and I make beautiful speeches, intellectual presentations. But when they're reporting it, the image they prefer to show is me moving my wheelchair up and down, or struggling to get out of the wheelchair. Those kind of images sending the message to the public that, oh, look at this fine woman, but she get problems, she get coma. That is the kind of imagery that the media continues to put out there about persons with disabilities. They take away the focus from your achievements, your intellectual abilities, and all of that, which is really what we want more people to see. This idea that persons with disabilities are pitiful, are beggarly, the media needs to stop portraying that. Once the media can get that right, a lot of the stigma and discrimination we face in the society will come down.
I agree with you to an extent, but let also give kudos to the media, because, for instance, Albino Foundation wouldn't have been where we are today without the media. You gave us the space, you gave us the opportunity. Irene, you'll agree with me. 5 years ago, 10 years ago,
I agree.
You wouldn't even do anything and they show up.
Yes, I agree. But the point also needs to be made that the media have to get it right for every other person to get it right. So those pockets of media that are still portraying pathetic pictures of persons with disabilities need to do a shift, need to change to portraying persons with disabilities in a positive way, an empowering way. The media are doing great. Like I said, we did 2 years ago or 5 years ago, there wouldn't have been any program on Disability Day. There wouldn't have been this kind of interaction on the media. It would just be some media reports about persons with disabilities, showing them in large quantities in slums and all of that. That is the kind of portrayal we would have seen. But now there's a more empowering way. They are bringing, intellectuals to the table. We're talking about it. You're hearing from us. You're seeking to know what are those issues that we face. It's different from where it was before. But I'm only saying that it can get better. And the media have a foremost role to play in doing that.
It's also important for us to mention some of the values that persons with disability are brought to table, even in nation building. Irene led a policy team that
national policy on the sexual and reproductive health.
I led the policy team that formulated the inclusive education policy for Nigeria. But the albinism policy that my organization championed is the first albinism policy in the whole world. So there's a whole lot of value. My brother here is a lawyer, so we are contributing to nation building, and we are saying, give us the space.
Yeah, Mr. Jake, that's why your theme for this year is promoting participation of persons with disability and their leadership. You are leaders of people with disability. Which way forward?
There are more people. We need more people to be given the space. A few months ago, I launched disability inclusion. Disability inclusion is not just a focus on give us a space, give us employment. We're saying give us opportunity in every sphere of life.
All right, Paul, let's get your closing thoughts.
Yeah, number one, there is need for synergy. There is need for more orientation on disability between the media and disability community to understand well, so that just to just what Masa is saying, and it goes beyond the media, even the political arena. In so many arena, you know, in politics, they say you have a person representing you in disability. Among us, all of us, three of us here, can do beyond disability. There is no area of human endeavor we are not competent to work. We are not only, you know, confined on disability matters alone. No, we can do beyond that. And finally, please, I want to appeal to some very important institutions to make themselves accessible. Just like National Assembly, there are some areas there that, in terms of parking space, they don't know that people like us should have a space to park. And that is very unfortunate.
Dr. Irene,
yes,
on your last word.
I'll end by saying that appreciating NTA, the media, for the role they're playing in ensuring that there's disability inclusion. The important thing is for us to continue to play those roles, play the watchdog role. The theme for this year is promoting the participation of persons with disabilities and their leadership. For us, our biggest message today is that women with disabilities must be brought into leadership. If you look around the country, there is no woman with disability at any level holding any kind of leadership position. We want that to change, and that's my biggest message today.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. Irene Patrick Obugo. Thank you very much. I'm sure, you know, the people who, everyone is listening to this, and we're also taking our own part in ensuring that at the end of the day we all play our parts. Thank you so much, Dr. Irene Patrick Obugo, Executive Director, Disability Rights Advocacy Center. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
And also a very big thank you to Paul Iheko Abba. Okay, from the Global and Justice Incorporated, a disability and human rights advocacy organization. Thank you so much, Paul.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure to have you here. And of course, a very big thank you to Jake Epele, founder, Albino Foundation. Always a delight to have you here with us. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Of course, we wish you all a wonderful celebration today. And of course, time now to take sports.